I'll tell you what, that was a little bit nervy towards the end, but Manchester United getting a really important 3 points there against Aston Villa at home. The only team in 2023 to keep Aston Villa out. They had a cracking set of results in their last 10 games. One of the informed teams coming to Old Trafford. We had the disappointment of the second half against Spurs. We responded. Today, that first half, real control. I'll tell you what, if the quality of Bruno and Eriksen and Rashford was a little bit higher, the game would have been buried. Absolutely. But we held out. Lindelof, man of the match. Casemiro, he looked class today. But Man United, this is all important. That game there, in my opinion, puts Aston Villa out of the conversation there for top four. What? They've played a game more than us, and they're, 9 points behind us? But we are 9 points ahead of Spurs, who are playing Liverpool at Anfield this afternoon. They may well drop points there. After the disappointment of Spurs, that is the response that we needed, that we wanted. And that's why I said it wasn't all doom and gloom after that. Was it frustrating against Spurs? Hell yes, it was frustrating against Spurs. But the man came up with the goods again today. Bruno Fernandes, early this week, was sitting on his sofa eating toast with his foot up in a protective boot and a pair of crutches there. What happened? He played 90 minutes away at Spurs. And then today, he plays 90 minutes again. And he came up with the goal. Man United, look, Aston Villa were playing they had confidence in their own form, so they played with a massively high line. But Eriksen and Bruno in that first half, they were dropping into half spaces, hanging out a little bit wide, and just drifting balls over the top constantly. Bruno in particular. Rashford, as I said, if his quality was better today, that game was done. And if Bruno's passes and Eriksen's passes were a little bit more finessed, the game was done. But it didn't matter because we got that clean sheet. And look, right, when Martinez got that season-ending injury and Varane injured for 4 weeks as well, I think all of us head in hands were like, what is going to go on with this defence? How impressive has Lindelof been? Today, the standout performance, but Lindelof and Shaw as the auxiliary centre-back partnership, in the same way that I always felt it was unfair for McTominay and Fred to be labelled together as McFred. I always thought it was unfair to just write off Lindelof as a centre-back because of how bad he was alongside Maguire, because they exacerbated each other's weaknesses. But the strengths of Lindelof there today, we needed him, not just the goal line clearance, not just the full defensive display. That was a game there where Manchester United's defence was better than Manchester United's attack. And if you keep a clean sheet, you only need one moment, one goal to make the difference. And it was a little bit of a war of attrition for the last 15, 20. Then Maguire came on. Villa were pumping in corners, crosses. It was dangerous. It was squeaky bum time. But we came through it. And that really is a huge, huge 3 points. I'm going to say that one more time. Look at the table. 9 points clear of fifth with the game in hand. That is the result there. Now, Brighton away on Thursday. That will not be easy. Then we've got West Ham away. I tell you what, it was good to see this man looking a bit far, far better than he has in the last couple of games. It was questionable. I was like, what's going on with Casemiro? What? Everything just seems, a couple of yards short. What's wrong with him? Today, the control was really helped because of his defensive display, screening that back four, because Erik ten Hag made some changes. And I would say it was a bold change to take Antony off and start Bruno on the right wing. As it transpired, because Villa played with such a high line, it was hugely influential. Christian Eriksen and Bruno drifting, balls over the top. And I tell you what, Marcel Sabitzer's performance, he was given the role of playing in the number 10 role and just being that front press. The sort of position where I think is actually the best for Fred as well. But Sabitzer nailed it today. And I mean, as a midfield quartet, Bruno, Eriksen, so was that Bruno, not Ten Hag, Eriksen, Casemiro, and Sabitzer, it worked. Packing that midfield, it worked. Taking Antony off, it worked. All right? Last 20 minutes of that game, we retreated a bit. Eriksen going off, like people are going to be like, actually, I don't think anybody is, because you're a bit mad, really. Eriksen, that quality wasn't quite there. So I understood why he went off. Fred, did he help control the game? No, I don't think Fred ever really properly will help control a game. But we saw it out, and I don't really need to get stuck into the nitpickiness of it all, but I was really particularly impressed with Sabitzer's, maybe not particularly impressed, but I just mean as a quartet, they just worked. The changes today worked and took advantage of how they played. Jadon Sancho, another game where it was sort of like it was hit, and then it was miss, and it was hit, and then it was miss, and there was hesitation a little bit back in his game. But Villa are a banging form team. I think they were in the form table, they were probably second behind City going into this game. And we kept a clean sheet. Man United's form at Old Trafford is imperious this season. I think the only game we've lost there in the Premier League was Brighton on the opening day. Haven't lost there at Old Trafford, I don't think, since Real Sociedad. And we haven't lost a game this entire season. The stat still exists where Casemiro, Bruno, and Eriksen have started. Not one game. And Casemiro was a big difference there because his presence, proper presence, where he's controlling that middle, allowed Eriksen to drift wide, Bruno to drift wide. Villa couldn't pick them up, and the balls over the top kept coming. As I said, if there was a little bit more quality in the balls from Bruno and Eriksen, and a little bit more quality, I tell you what, from this man, with the final shot, move of the attack, we would have that game would have been dead and buried quite easily. I think the quality was just lacking there. Something that needed to change from the Spurs game was the performance of our fullbacks. And I think they both played pretty well today. Malacia in the first half in particular, really aggressive when he needed to be. There was one point where he got left exposed, but that's because Luke Shaw ran forward and then Malacia dropped in to cover Luke Shaw's space, so the ball went over the top, and I think it was Ashley Young just kind of ran into acres of space. But I think Malacia played well, and I think Diogo Dalot played well. I think overall, as a collective defensive unit, we played really well today. As I said, Villa were bang in form. And there was frustration after the drop points. But what frustration? Swings and round. Look, there's 6 games left now. Let's try and do the maths. There's 6 games left. Our game in hand now on Spurs against Chelsea. What's that, 25th of May? Something like that. I think it's before the final game of the season against Fulham, if I'm correct. Spurs play Liverpool today. What happens if Liverpool win? If Liverpool win, they go on to 56 points, having played one more game than us. So that's 7 points behind us, and we'd have a game in hand. This top 4 is ours to lose. Not losing to Spurs was important. We should have buried that. 2-0, should have been game done. Doesn't matter anymore. Move on. Very bad. It was a bad result because you're 2-0 up, right? But it's not as doom and gloom as people, I suppose, made it out to be. And Bruno, the difference maker again. Honestly, he's a freak. And I mean that in a positive way. I have no idea how he continues to just play 90 minutes constantly every single week. It's mad. Something that I should have mentioned at the start of the video, and I apologise about this, is I want to say a big well done to the 1958 for organising the protest. And a big shout out to everybody who went. I'm going to be working on a video of that protest to give it as much coverage as I possibly can, because we got a massively important week coming up for the history of our football club with the new ownership situation, which I will speak about a little bit further down the line. Who was your man of the match? For me, I'm looking at Victor Lindelof. As I said, I've feared for the rest of our season when Martinez went out with that injury, when Varane went out for 4 weeks. But to his credit, Lindelof and Luke Shaw both have been fantastic. And yeah, such a big win. That really is that were there for me was the definitive game. Had we lost that, that would have been Villa on what? 57 points, us on 60 points. That's when there would have been fear about what's coming up. Not anymore. All in United's hands. Brighton just beat Wolves 6-0, so that's not going to be an easy trip. You can let me know who your man of the match was. Mine was Lindelof. Casemiro was probably a close second. Our defence was better than our attack today. And because we had that one moment from Bruno, all we needed was a clean sheet. And we delivered. It might not have been the most controlled 90 minutes. Again, we don't control a game for 90 minutes. Again, when the subs are made. That hasn't happened all season because, let's be honest, Ten Hag, I think Man United have scored more goals. Man United subs have scored more goals than any other team in the Premier League this season. But at the moment, when we're taking certain players off, the midfield's losing control. And it's not helping United. That's what we need the summer for. New signings, but 3 points, clean sheet. 9 points clear of Spurs in 5th. Yeah, I will take that. Happy days indeed.